Welcome to Swiss Army Guitar. I'm Mike Andrews, math teacher by day, guitarist by night. And I'm currently the lead guitarist of a bar band called 2 Hour Delay. And if you're from Northwest Ohio, you probably know what that is. 2 thumbs up to a 2-hour delay. My purpose for this channel is to teach you things that I wish I would have known 20 years ago. And from playing in a bar band, I've learned to become a all-purpose guitarist, and that's why I decided to name the channel Swiss Army Guitar. I grew up in the 80s, and my idols and the guitarists that influenced me back then played fast and more notes, and I grew up thinking that playing fast and playing more notes was being a better guitarist. I loved guitarists like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani and Nuno Betancourt and all of them, and I still wish I could play like that, but I just didn't have the drive to put in the time that I needed to do that. I was much happier expressing myself in my band than I was trying to impress, one guitarist sitting out in the audience watching the guitarist's every move. As the years went by, I started realizing that playing guitar is like speaking in public, and a good speaker isn't a speaker that says more words and speaks faster. It's actually a speaker that uses the right words with emotion, and playing guitar is a lot like that. The guitarists that are still popular today, that are still influencing people years and years later, are the Claptons and the Gilmores and the Page and the Gibbons, Steve Lukather, Neil Giraldi, even Van Halen. Even though he was a flashy guitar and sort of started that 80s trend, when you really par down what he's playing the notes at the right time with the right emotion. And even though I'm not going to focus necessarily on playing fast and flashy in my channel, the foundation that you build here hopefully can be something that you can take, and if you want to go that route, can go that route and really take off with that if you have the drive to do that. While we're going through my lessons, I don't want you to learn them note for note. I'm not going to tab anything out because I really want to encourage you to use your ears and let your ears guide you. And think more like a saxophone player when you're playing solos than using the shapes that guitarists often get stuck using. And there's one guiding principle, and that is if it sounds cool, it is cool. So let's get started with our first lesson. Okay, so for this first lesson, I just want to give you a quick idea that I've used in the past to help me come up with solos on the spot very quickly. And if you were paying attention during my intro, you'll know that the progression I was playing is a very common progression in pop music, but I wanted to use that because it has 4 of the main chords you're going to hear in 80-90% of the music that you listen to. And the progression was an A chord, then it went to an F sharp minor, and I like to play it like this, but I like to add my thumb to get that bass note in there. Then I went to an E chord, and then I went to a D chord. Now this is a nice progression because it gives you something to really grab onto. The chords go by at a slower bit of a pace, but there's also minors and majors mixed in there, and a dominant chord is in there. And you can really draw those sounds out. And in future lessons, we'll get into what to do when progressions are faster or might just be power chords and blues and things like that. But all of this focuses around something that I really want to talk about today, and it's that the difference between being a pianist and being a guitarist. Now, a pianist has it easy in the sense that every note is the same all up and down the keyboard. A C is always going to be to the right of a B. There's never going to be a black key in between, and it's going to look the same everywhere you go. But a pianist has it harder when it comes to chords because every single chord is going to be different. And if you just focus on basic triads, that means they have 12 different shapes for all 12 chords. Now, on a guitar, you've got it a little bit easier. We can play chords like this E chord here. If I use my first finger as the notes that are open and play that E shape like this, I've you've now got an F sharp, a G sharp, an A. And, you know, when you play a D chord, if I move it up here, it's an E chord. If I move it up here, it's a G chord, an A chord, a B chord. So in that sense, guitarists have it easier. The problem comes for us is that A's are all over the place. We have an A note here, 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 an A here. If I already played that one, I may have already played that one. An A note here, an A note here. They're just all over the place. And guitarists like to get into the habit of using shapes as a tool to help them get through all of that. And that's great, and it can really be helpful for chords and things, which in a future video I'm going to show you the 3 basic chords that I use to get around all over the neck, the basic triad shapes. But when it comes to finding, you know, single notes like an A note on the guitar, it's a little bit trickier. And really, when you're playing guitar and you're soloing, you're more than likely going to use the G string, the B string, and the E string more than any other string. So it's really beneficial to get to know the notes on those 3 strings. And the nice thing is, if you know that this is an A on the high E string, this is an A on the low E string as well. So those 2 strings are the same. So by learning those top 3, you've already learned, you know, 4/6 of all the notes on the guitar. And it's really not that hard. But to start slow and start easy, which is what Swiss Army Guitar is all about, I want you to just find the notes that name the chord. So for instance, our first chord is an A, okay? So I want you to find that A. And if you're not sure where it is, just count up the musical scale. We've got the G string right here. So you've got G, G sharp, A. On the B string, we'd have to go a little further. We'd have to go B, C. Remember, there's nothing between B and C and E and F. So B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. Now that you know where it's at, it might be helpful to think, hey, it's 2 notes below the 2 dotted fret. So you've got an A here, you've got an A here, and then E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. And notice this octave right here, the A that I played first and this one. There's a 4-note span there. It's kind of a nice way to remember that A. Now, one thing I do when I'm playing over an A chord is I don't think about scales. I don't think about using a pentatonic shape. I think, okay, what sounds good over an A chord? Well, over an A chord, the A, of course, is going to sound good. So if you're strumming A, that's going to always sound great. And you might want to embellish that a little bit, because it would be boring to just be going. Instead, what you could do is maybe, you know, add a second note, like go. This wouldn't sound as good. Something sounds weird. That'd be like, that just, you know, that's very jazzy and out there, which has its place and might sound really cool in an exotic chord progression. But 1 fret up doesn't sound good, so I'll go up 2 frets and go. And I remember that as sounding good over an A chord. I also know that since we're in the key of A, 1 fret down is going to sound pretty good too. If I go. Another good note from the A would be the 3rd of the chord, which would be A, B, C sharp. This note right here, so you could go. That sounds cool. You could bend to it. Sorry, my bends weren't very accurate there, but you could go. There you've already got you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 notes that are going to sound great over an A chord, and you could do endless permutations of those. And all kinds of things. And just let your ear guide you. If it doesn't sound good, don't play it. If it sounds good, great, play it. Just record yourself playing an A progression for 5 minutes and challenge yourself to make melodies up over that A chord. So now the next chord was an F sharp minor. Now that has a totally different flavor because it has that minor sound. So we have to find the F sharps for this one, and the easiest one is right here. E, F, F sharp. That sounds great. Over here we've got B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, which is nice because right after the A chord, right when we change to that F chord, we could hit that note right there. And down 1 fret from there doesn't sound good, or that F sharp minor. That doesn't sound good, but this one might. Go. So. Did you hear how that one didn't sound good? But I went over it really fast, and you probably wouldn't have even noticed it. And people, when you're playing out, might not even notice that. And then going up from F sharp, that's too happy sounding. That's like playing the A chord. A, B, C sharp, but that's major. Minors have what is called a flat third. So instead of 1, 2, 3, it's 1, 2, 3, and oh yeah, that sounds minor. So A. Then we go to E. E's major, so we can play two frets, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, E, F, G sharp. Sounds good over E. And E is right here as well. B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. So the things we did for A could work. Like with A, we went the 1 and the 3, using that middle note as kind of a passing note. E would work well too. So now we've got A. F sharp minor. E. Now D. B, C, C sharp, D. D is a major chord, so we can go D. We can do that 1, 2, 3, major third. Minor third, that would be a D minor, but we have a D major, so we need that up there. Now the same things would work with D. We could bend to the third. D sounds good when you go a half step down too. And that's because it's the 4th chord of the scale. And we'll talk about that later, because that doesn't matter right now. We just want to focus on our ear. So we've got A, F sharp minor, E, D, back to A. Now, just play around with that. I'll probably include the MP3 file that I had made that I was playing over in the intro. Down in the bottom in the description here if you want to use that progression to kind of play over. But I really highly recommend that you take something on your phone or on your iPad, on your computer, and record yourself playing the A chord for about 2, 3, 4 minutes, and then the F sharp minor for a while, and just kind of play around finding what notes sound good and don't. And sometimes you can play notes like that would sound really good going from the A. That's a chromatic note. So you could go. You could even hear the chords going through even though I wasn't playing any chords. Play melodically. I believe that saxophone players think like this. They know what the root of the chord is. They know what notes sound good above and below it. And they just have fun connecting melodies through it all. So I hope that helps. Go ahead and give that a shot. Have fun connecting melodies together from the chords that you got. And next up, we're going to talk about learning the neck. I've got 3 possible shapes. There's only 3 shapes that we can use on the guitar to help us learn the neck. But the best part about the way I'm going to teach it to you is you won't be thinking about the shapes. You'll be thinking about the sounds and really developing your ear. There's also 3 shapes I use for chords, and we'll get into that in a future lesson as well. Now, I want to shout out to the rest of the teachers in my band, 2 Hour Delay. Can't wait to get back with you guys again and play out in 2 Hour Delay. I'm making this video right in the middle of the 2020 pandemic. So have fun, good luck, and remember, a good speaker uses the right notes with emotion, and if it sounds cool, it is cool. Swiss Army Guitar. Thanks for watching.